Phew, it was cold this morning. This is Florida. This should be warm. What is that, El Nino or whatever's changing the pattern down here? We've had a cool winter. Not freezing, thank God. I hope I get my mangoes and lychees and everything else. If it freezes, I'll lose them. But my lychee trees, mango trees are going pop, 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 pop. I'm going, ho, 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 ho. Hello, my dear ones. How are you today? I thought I'd get in here and try to go over a lot of your questions as much as I can get done here before lunch. And there's so much going on, and I apologize. But I'll tell you what, the 1st of January kicked my butt. It did. So, I want to get to it here. Tanya Ray, female, 49 years old. She's only 5'3". And again, I want everybody to start thinking, boy, when you're short or tall, you know pituitary involvement is a fact. It's just a fact. Then you can go from there and go, well, do you have parathyroid? Do you have thyroid? How about adrenals? And remember, your pancreas is an endo, part of your heart's an endo, so you got a lot of endocrinology controlled by the hypothalamus and the pituitary. So that can lead you into multiple problems. Well, to have hyperpituitarism, what would you have to, there goes those, what would you have to have, right? You would have to have lymphatic stagnation. That would be important to know. Let's see if I can find another pair of these things. You don't want that. That one's a something a lot of you don't like. Okay, so let's see. See what we got here. All right. She's 217 pounds at only 5'3". So what's the two glands most responsible for your inability to deal with sugars? It's going to be your adrenal glands, and it's also going to be your thyroid. You know, when your thyroid goes down, your rate of metabolism or oxidation goes down, and you're still pumping it in, you're going to have a lot of things turning to fat. You know, and also when you get overweight like that, one thing is you see all the time, and that is fungus. You get full of fungus, and then it's difficult because you're fighting colonies of fungus inside of you. And of course, they love fermented food. That's what they do. They're fermentation freaks, right? Your bacterium is putrefaction freaks. So you got fermentation. Fermentation happens under the carbohydrate chains. And so you have to look at proper digestion and things like that, but a rate of metabolism. So all these things play a role. So what's the gig? How do you have all these problems? How do you have, again, the pituitary problems? You have to have something that's a stimulant that turns these things on or stimulates them. And 9 times out of 10, you could probably have some type of chemistry, maybe thimerosal, even in these vaccines can do that. These are neurotoxins, though, and seem to suppress as opposed to stimulate. But acids, when you start getting acidic and you start developing stagnation within the lymph system, you can make any gland hyper. But the last, and we've talked about this for years, the last phase is always hypo. You're hyper for so many years, and then you're going to go down the other way. Because everything can be hyperstimulated, and in the final analysis, your body's going to be ripped apart and taken down to the what? Atoms again. Remember, this is an atom rearrangement. Creation's just atom rearrangements, moving things around. For a minute, you're a tree, and the next thing you know, you're a humanoid. Oh, so I am fat. Oh, honey. Just diagnosed with stage 3 and 4 osteoarthritis. So again, in my knees. So here we go again. It just takes you back to lymphatic stagnation. So when you have acids building up in the body, your body has to defend itself. You're in a war. The two sides of chemistry are always in a war, right? So you see that in glycolysis. You see that in everywhere you go, the movement of electrons toward the protons. It's a natural movement, magnetic movement. And so when you see osteoarthritis, what's happening? You're losing calcium, right? How? Acids. You'll see it in everywhere you look. This idea that bicarbonate neutralizes all acids is just an insanity thing because you don't see that. Maybe in hydrochloric acid issues and pepsin issues, but that's about all where you see it. Because if you're a heavy meat eater, the first thing you start to see with these people, wrinkled skin, you start to see the varicose veins, spider veins, you can have hemorrhoids, hernias, aneurysms, things sag, you just go on down that connective tissue problems. You start seeing that. And what would be one of the symptoms of extreme body acidosis? We'll call it Celine Dion's stiff body syndrome. That's extreme acidosis, very fixable. But if she doesn't open up her consciousness and open up to say, hey, maybe medical doesn't have a cure, of course not, maybe I better look somewhere else. But it shows you the spiritual involvement of these individuals. And some people you think should be really spiritual or not. Because when you're more of an awakened being, you're going to not take one focus. You're going to go, wait a minute, you know what, let me look over here. It's like that letter, I'll never forget that letter I read where the lady had been to 33 medical doctors. 33? How long those 33 did you finally realize that medical had no answer for curative issues? Treatment-based only. They're a treatment-based modality, but call a spade, right? But homeopathy is the same thing. These are treatable, but I'd rather treat myself with homeopathics than pharmaceuticals. These guys are gnarly and getting more gnarly by the year. Just that concerted effort, I think, to eliminate humans. I'm sure elsewhere, absolutely. Systemically, so you're seeing the loss of calcium out of tissue, and then the joint suffers, the connective tissue suffers, everything suffers. You see that just eating proteins going and the absorption of these into the blood. You cannot put acids in the blood. Medical doctors haven't learned that, so sit down, let me give you some chemo. Yeah, sit down, let me kill you. Oh, under the guise of, hope this can save you. If it can't, we tried. Really? Yeah, you tried to kill him. But had an MRI due to a torn meniscus. Again, you're starting to lose integrity of tendons, connective tissue, all the 9 yards here. And that just tells you your body is very, very acidic. And you have to turn that around. And so, as we were just talking earlier with my son and Jessica, this is about changing your diet. But I highly recommend you get on Parasite M and do at least 2 dropperfuls 3-4 times a day. That'll help get a hold of the fungal problem and allow you to get more power and control of yourself. It's interesting how colonies of fungus can control your emotions. Control you. It's interesting. And we were just talking about, because they were on the news this morning, or was it last night, about the psychedelic mushrooms and stuff. And Matt and Jason, we were all talking about the communication that is in the forest of all the mushrooms, trees, and how when the trees are dying, it takes its nutrients out and feeds all around it. I mean, the communication, of course, that's that old saying, if you inject a bacterial change in America, it'll be all around the world within 3 days or less. The communication and nature is, you can't even imagine it. It's just like, because when you look at Secret Life of Plants, and we talked about that book, you talk about the lady professor that's using plants in airports because they can identify 100% of the time bomb material chemistries. It becomes, you've got to understand everything's the one. Amazing. Just amazing communication and levels that humans have no idea. That's why raw is so important. When you go into cooked foods and stuff, you're literally destroying the consciousness of the plant, the energetics of the plant. You're rebonding its chemistry, and you think that's better for you? I just have anybody that could even believe in that. And if you do, you're brainwashed. I'm very familiar with microbiotics, and I was in Portugal for several years. And of course, every year there's a symposium from bringing in top practitioners around the world. I represented the United States, and I go up to one of the top microbiologists of the world, and I'm saying, you're awful gray looking. You're just gray looking. I said, it's because you cook your vegetables. And I get it. Some vegetables, just don't do well in a human because we're not a herbivore. We don't have those grinders. We don't have those extra compartments to help break this down. So cooking, yeah, steaming, that sort of thing. But in doing that, you're destroying your food source. So that's another little kick up why I used to say, you don't have to do that with fruit. Also on my blood work, there's a clear decline in the function of my adrenals. Yeah. And that you can take that to the bank. The adrenals are always involved in obesity. Always. Always. For multiple purposes. One, the lymphatic system, and that's systemic, head to toe. And then two, sugar metabolism, obviously. So you've got several issues there involved. But then you want to look at the thyroid. And in your case, honey, you got to look at your pituitary. That you can't sometimes fix these other endocrine glands without going after the pituitary simultaneously. Just can't do it. And doctor said it's all normal blood work. I love that. You can be like in kidney function, your creatinine. You can be like, of course now it used to be 0.99 was your top end. Now they've got 1.2 whatever stuff. I've always said when you're a 7, I'm freaking. You got to deal with this. And so they'll let you get all the way up to 1 or something. Hey, you're okay. That's because they do not understand the body. They do not understand health. And in all fairness to the medical community, that's not what they learn. They learn diseases and how to treat them with pharmaceuticals. Sad when you have to go learn an illusion, spending all that money. And then instead of helping people, you can give a pharmaceutical and help someone, no question about it. No question about it. You've got pain meds, you got some pharmaceuticals that are essential to life. And then surgeries are always essential. You've got to look at surgery. But for me, I would seek as a pharmaceutical owner, I would seek to make less toxic pharmaceuticals. Maybe interject more botanicals with them. Bull crap. You're right, honey. Bull crap. I love that. I love this lady already. So I brought your book, the Detox Miracle Source Book, and instantly see the adrenal issues causes fat. Absolutely. I have been vegetarian for 20 years. 20 years she's been a vegetarian. So you can't blame meat, can you? No. But you can go after the carbohydrates. But carbohydrates are essential to life. You don't have carbohydrates, you don't have sugars, you don't have life. But, again, there's a difference between simple and complex. There's a difference between grains and fruits or vegetables. So when you get in your polysaccharides, grains are fattening, period. End of story. Breads, all kinds of grains, cereals, fattening. But not just that, they set up fungal activity in the body because your body can't break down complex sugars like it can't break down complex proteins. It's difficult. And then in the way people combine their foods, you have all kinds of crap going on. You have fermentation over here, you have putrefaction over here, because you stop proper digestion. You mix an acid with an alkali, you have a more neutral effect. That's why proper food combinations has always been essential. The natural hygienic people have always harped on that, and it's always been a good harp. All right. And gained a ton of weight when I did that and cannot get it off. Well, that's why you refocus to a raw food diet, work with the fungal problems, and then, of course, with the herbs, you're going to go after your kidneys because that's another place you're having problems with, sweetie. Go after your kidneys, go after your adrenal glands, check that thyroid, check your basal temperatures under your arm. If they're in the mid or low 97s or upper 96s, So metabolism can be an issue with it. And with a pituitary, you can have all the endos having problems. Well, now you want to get those knees fixed up and you need to take that calcium and reabsorb it, right? What else do we need to be working? Parathyroid glands. Well, you got a pituitary that can sit on the parathyroid glands as well. So again, you want to look at that. and get a good protocol set up for yourself. Jessica writes them here for me now. I've retired from making protocols, but I've trained her from day one. So she's good. I find one of our other good students in school that know these protocols, and it's not difficult. These are simple, easy to understand, and each and every one of you can empower yourself to win the game. And that's what's cool. You don't have to depend upon a physician somewhere that you're not quite sure what level they are at. I know I need to go raw and have downloaded your diet program. I know, but here's the thing now. The heaviest person I've ever had was 770 pounds in here. And couldn't even sit in the chairs. I had to get a chair without any arms on them. And two together. He's quite a large fella. And I realized with this case how difficult it is when you're very large and you have fungus. Now, Dick Gregory, I don't know if you remember him. He was a comedian turned raw foodist. He wrote Cooking with Mother Nature. And it's an all raw food book. But Dick Gregory took on a 1,200-pound man and got him down to 700 or 600 pounds. The last I heard, I don't remember. I think Dick Gregory passed. Don't remember. I'm getting old, so I don't know. People are dying right and left. Look at Toby Keith. I'm like, Toby, Jesus criminy, sorry. Stomach cancer. I can't remember a case where I've ever failed with stomach cancer. Toby. You know, but if you make the wrong decision and you go allopathically, and people are so brainwashed that way, your chances of making it are slim next to none. Look at Patrick Swayze. Tough old guy, right? Good martial artist, stuff like that. I'm going to conquer this pancreatic. Yeah, right? Yeah, you didn't see that happen. Because you don't understand. You can't treat these sort of things. You have to understand how you created this. And that's the problem with allopathy. They think cancer just flies around like these angels and says, you know what? That guy needs me. Boom! No, all this is created by the individual. But in all fairness, it starts in your genetic lineage. You know, this is your particular whatever ethnic group you're in. If you're an Italian, there's those meatballs and spaghetti and pastas and, you know, cooked tomato sauces and all that. And so you got Mexican. Look at all the cheeses and the meats and stuff like that, and the beans. All of these foods are very toxic to humans. And it's just like, but we're just fallen into that. And so there's been very little education through all these years about raw foods, and those that have been highly suppressed. You know, they've always made fun and all that stuff, and the joke's on them, not us. We're the victims of unconsciousness. And you have to realize that. This is a world of unconsciousness, and it has to be that way. Your job is to find consciousness, find awareness. And they were talking last night, I was listening to Fox News, and they were talking about these psilocybins. They had a guy that's in a group that's on the negative side, and then a lady that she's a spiritual healer or something, talking about the benefit. The one thing that they brought out, it brings you present. And they use the word present. And that's exactly what these do. It brings you into the now. Well, you don't need to use anything to do that. You just have to learn how to stop thinking. And when you stop thinking and watch your mind, you become the observer instead of the thinker. Same thing. You'll pull yourself right in the now. You don't have the toxic effects on the body of these things. And you're in the now. And that's where all the answers are. That's where all life comes from, is the now, into the illusionary movement of duality. So, and then I've been doing the starch solution. All right, I haven't heard that one. Only to read in your book that those starches are just turning into, well, hell, the starch solution? What the hell is that? Yeah, if you're obese, start eating more starch. Anybody that come up with that sort of thing is blind and ignorant to the max. That's crazy. That's the problem in the first place. Proteins are not fattening. Only to read in your book. Yeah, starch. Exactly. What advice do you have? I hurt all the time and I am young because, sweetie, you're systemically acidic, and that's pain. You can start feeling pain everywhere, lose calcium everywhere, lose your joints, and just keep on going down that road. Nerve transmission calcium plays a big role in that. I mean, you got a lot of things going on there, so very important to turn this around. I heard all the time, oh yeah, I know I feel better raw, and for the love of all that's holy, I cannot seem to stick to it. Should I just eat more raw? Well, you got to go raw, but remember the fungus issue. You know, starch, complex sugars, dye, polys, saccharides, your body has a hard time with those. And those are your grain sugars and stuff. You know, there are some polys in some fruits and stuff, but minor stuff. I've got a chart coming into the new book on these sugars and the different sugars within different fruits. You know, whether it's a fructose, glucose, sucrose even. But even a sucrose, you know, you're looking at a lot of differences, in my opinion, when you're looking at a fruit, which will take off weight really nicely for you, and say a granola bar. BTW, my biological mom has kidney. There you go. Her mother has kidney disease, Addison's disease. So there you go. Kidneys and adrenals. There you go. So, honey, you just have to realize you're just the victim of genetics, along with lymphatic issues. So you correct them. Your body will turn genetic weaknesses around as it created us. Cells, life responds to action, right? You put an action out, you get an equal and opposite reaction. We call that karma in some ways. Jesus said you reap what you sow. But this is effectual in all chemistry at all levels. And you just have to realize that. Addictions to no end. And again, you got to look at the fungal involvement. When you're a starch eater, you're going to have fungal involvements, and even not so in, let's say, eating a hamburger or eating potatoes and a piece of meat or something. You're eating two opposite sides. You're eating carbon and more of a nitrogen together, and they really don't mix at the same meal. So you start your starch digestion in your mouth with an alkaline mouth. You don't digest meat in your mouth. Not at all. You might break it apart and rip it apart, but it starts in the stomach. Well, there's an acid digestion. So an alkali and an acid neutralizes each other. It's that simple. A lot of times you'll feel your food just sitting there. You say, God, why isn't that digesting? Because you neutralize the digestive enzymes. I was made in addiction and health issues. Absolutely. And you got your mom's lymphatic system. So big thing. What would be my advice? Eye picks. Get a picture of your eyes, sweetheart. Take a look at them and see what you see. Look at your lymph system. Look at your kidneys. Look at your pituitary. And of course, to have pituitary, what else can we connect? This is the beauty of iridology. Sweet. All right. So where are we connecting? Transverse colon. So you're going to see problems with your colon too. See, and that's what people don't understand, how everything is so hooked together. It's amazing. We don't even know. It's like the communication within the mushroom family all through the forests. The communication between the bacterium community all through the world. The plant community communicates, has emotions. You got to realize, and we've talked about this with the God World chart, showing you how creation is put together. And if Paul Twitchell did anything as a favor to humanity, is giving you an insight how creation is put together so you have the tools to pull yourself out of it. Very important to understand that. But all life has to come down through the Godhead like that. You can't have plants that don't have minds and emotions. Impossible. You can't just, boom, have a plant there. It's got to come through the creative side of thought and through the mind and the causal, which sets up its design and all that, and then it takes on an emotional component. Plants are very emotional. Unfortunately, I shared so much with my grown children who now hold their own physical burdens. Well, this is about educating everybody. Nobody get upset. All right, let's get together. Let's have meetings. Let's talk about health. You can view, that's why I make these videos. I have no reason to make these videos than to help you guys. That's, and get these children on board because they're up for some, look at your world, and their world can be much worse. You don't get better genetically unless you make yourself better before you conceive. And that's the problem. Everybody just keeps conceiving down the line and doesn't correct things in their body. You can create either side. You can tear it down and you can build it up. Life isn't just, medical just thinks life is just going down. No, regeneration, tissue regeneration. We proved that so many years. I need to heal myself. Absolutely you do. Or you're so young, you're 49, and a hell of a road. You still menstruating? Because that's another thing you're going to see stop with pituitary problems. A lady stop menstruating early. All things bad like that. Sorry, this is so... No, it's not long, sweetie. Not at all. Not at all. I thought this was very nice. Appreciate it. And let's get this done. All right? You deserve it. Each and every one of you deserve to be happy, healthy, and feel good. And if you don't, that is teach you how to. If you need help, call the clinic and hook up with Jessica. Even Jason, he's, of course, my son, and he owns and operates the health center here, and he's helped a lot of people through the years himself. So this is something that I would do. And get yourself out of this, but also communicate with your children, and be an example for your children, But remember the fungal community. And a person like you has heavy fungal problems, and you just got to use a antifungal. But nothing antifungal in the medical community, even like Lamisil, has fatal events tied to it. I've used Parasite M massively. Thousands and thousands of you guys have. We've never had any side effects of that. The beauty of botanicals, the right formulas put together the right way, you've got the most beautiful partner to help you assist. Because remember, all these herbs are not cooked. These herbs maintain their original consciousness. We might kind of put them together and, press them up and let them get kind of friendly with each other and then kind of absorb energetically with each other, but that makes them more powerful. When I first started the formulas, the lab I was using, if I wanted, say, 4 or 5 herbs in a formula, they would take individual herbs and then pour how much I wanted at each one of them. I said, no. That's not how I do my formulas. My formulas need to be all processed together. They need to macerate together. They need to love each other, because if you don't, you'll feel it. When I do a formula, I feel whether everybody loves each other or there's someone in there just not happy. And then I'll find that someone and boot them out. It's an art. Herbology, I've taught herbal, this is my 50th year as a naturopath. And I got into herbs about 2 years before I became a naturopath. I had health food stores. And I knew that supplements wasn't the way. It didn't fit the consciousness because you had to sell supplements to make it. I even had calcium supplements made from pure carrot juice. Yeah, those are the kind of supplements I was looking for. Can't always find those kind, but that was really exciting to have your calcium supplementation from carrot juice. It's cool stuff. Carrots can have a lot of calcium in it. All right, this is Lissa, a male. From Australia, 27 years young, no height or weight assigned to this. Myelodysplastic syndrome, whatever that is. I never heard of that one. Someone else, family, friend, or other. Hello, Dr. Morse. I'm a big fan. Love you, my friend. And really resonate with your way of healing. It's simple. It's simple. Every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. That's foods, that's thoughts, that's feelings, that's everything, And the fact that the human, and it was forgotten, the human is a frugivore, and we're going to show you that in our first book up. And it's coming along. I've got so many charts and things. I think it's exciting. And then I think, Marco, you said you can turn this into a actually hardback or a written copy. That would be cool. But in a video book, you can sit and hear us talk to you about it, and we can say things and elaborate on things. Usually you don't in a book. When I wrote my book, the editor, she was after me, because I'm the kind of guy that says, I'm going to tell you straight how it is. She said, you can't do that in a book. I always said, well, the shortest distance between 2 places is a straight line, right? But you got to expand, you got to go out a little more, and you got to be able to. And I go, okay, because I like to hear this, man, straight out. My friend's son had just been diagnosed with, I don't know what the hell that is, Myelodysplastic syndrome and paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, PNG. Jesus Christ. That's why I hate the medical world. They love this stuff because these are the intellectuals of the world. I'm a farm boy, man, in my physical thing. I hated spelling in English. It wasn't a male thing where I come from, right? Math, of course, but we're all working. But some of these names are ridiculous, He is a healthy 27-year-old and only found this out as he had to have a medical for work, so had multiple blood tests. Doctors are talking very heavily and serious treatment. Oh, Jesus, here we go. Look at this. Insofar as chemo, just clean your body. Just take an acid that's a 1.5. It'll just clean your body. Yeah, of all the cells. Oh, man, these guys are fruitcakes. And potentially bone marrow transplant. You can rebuild bone marrow. You can rebuild every tissue in the body. You can't on high protein acid diets. You can't on not living foods. You can't rebuild when a lymphatic system is stagnant until you remove the acids around, even in the bone marrow or anywhere in the body, until your lymph system gets itself moving, because the cause is always the same. I don't care what they want to title this. You only have two sides of chemistry, boys. That's it. And you only have two really fluid-based systems in the body. Blood and lymph. That needs to be the first thing you're taught, and then go from there. Figure it out. Look at the chemistry of what acids do, the cationic side and the anionic side. You're supposed to learn all that, but some people, I guess, can't tie it all together. And somehow in chemistry they teach the body as in an alkalotic state. Really? Yeah, right. Go on a raw food diet, and if you're in an alkalotic state, you'd go right on over. Doctors are, oh God. I would love to introduce a family to your way of healing, and we'll give them a copy of your book to read. Do you have any recommendations, suggestions, ideas, thoughts? That's pretty good on this. Absolutely do. I don't care what tissue and what location. You have the two sides of chemistry. You have blood that is your kitchen that brings in ATP and other little goodies. And then you also have a sewer system that removes the waste. Your body's like a factory and everything else. You have kinetic activity everywhere. You have the use of chemistry, the making of energy, and the releasing of energy. I mean, at some levels, some of you spiritual guys, absolutely. The body's nothing but an energetic body, and that's all it gets out of these vitamins and minerals and stuff is like a vampire sucking the blood out. You get the energy out, and then the byproducts go away, or not. And that's the problem, the byproducts. How's the body get rid of byproducts? Well, if you believe, like medical thinking, that your body dumps its acid waste into the venous system again, you're smoking something I would never smoke. That's for dang sure. I mean, that's bad. And massage therapists, of course, bought into this sort of thing. No. You have eliminative organs. I guess the two kidneys are just sitting there looking pretty. Yeah. And the skin, it's just wrapping around the body, protecting itself, right? But we have sweating. Oh, you're supposed to sweat. Why do we go to saunas to sweat? Well, what are we sweating? Oh, sweating out the poisons and toxins. All right, which side of chemistry are we talking about? Oh, acids. And if you don't remove acid subcutaneously out of the skin, what do you see? Psoriasis, eczema, all the skin problems? Absolutely. Once you get the kidneys filtering, get the thyroid up, you get your body sweating, you might see some acids coming out of you, so your skin might look a little worse. Hang in there and it'll clear right up. We've showed you, like Miss Philippines, also Dubai. There was, I don't know if she became Miss Dubai, but one of our students cleaned up a lady that had head-to-toe psoriasis there too. Understanding the simplicity of how the body works and the simplicity of foods too. It's one thing to, yeah, we were talking about that earlier when had my son here and Jessica here, but you can have a little cheat, but and you're hurting right now, hold that off. Tell your mind and your emotions, hang on, I'm in control here. When I get to a certain point, I'll give you a little kick. I remember that one lady I told you about. She worked for a naturopath. He produced the trace elements that you buy in health food stores, and he lived right up the way here. Horrible diet, stunk, bad naturopath, sorry. But she had developed lung cancer, crushed the lymphatic system and all that. And it was stage 4 or whatever, and she didn't have long to live, supposedly. So she came to me. I put her all on raw, all on grapes, so everything started getting better, better, better. Her breathing was better, and everything was better. Couldn't get the tumors totally out of her, but it didn't matter. I got her so alkaline and so healthy, you know. She actually buried her husband, who sent her to me, and buried her dog. And she told me, if my dog dies, I have no reason to live. And I said, what are you talking about? You're an elderly woman with lung cancer, and now you're healthy. You're incredible, and you don't want to live if your dog dies. And sure enough, her dog died. She died 3 days later. I said, demony Christmas, man. But important to understand that when you're seeing tumors and swelling, you're seeing the decay of bone marrow, you're seeing anything like that. You know, no matter what they call it. They stick labels like leukemia and everything else on just so they can give you some chemo. Really? I mean, this whole thing needs to be brought to a head. We need to get some learned people in positions that can stop this sort of thing and deal with what's going on here, because it's insanity. They want to give chemo now for psoriasis and other things. And some young girl in here, she was on chemo. I said, what are you talking about? She said, yeah, they put me on chemo for this psoriasis. I'm going, oh, cleaned her up too, by the way. That particular young one had parasites out the yin-yang. She ended up in the hospital. Her parents freaked out. She was drawing what she saw coming out of her, right? She had all kinds of flukes, tapes. I think she had a tape, a roundworm. She was loaded. Well, they took her to this hospital up the way in Bradenton. And the ER doc told her, there's no such thing as parasites in humans. And when I stopped laughing, I couldn't believe he said something like that. They had her there 8 hours. She finally were able to stool for him. And when it came back to the lab, she said it was funny because the doctors looking going, yeah, there is something unusual here. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, this is John. Hey, John, United States. Another 49-year-old. Oh, look at this one. Opposite. Instead of 5'3", this gentleman is 6 foot plus inches. Same thing. Yeah. Can kidneys fully repair even the parts of the kidneys that have died? I'm going to tell you yes, because we see a lot of necroticism in the body and tissues, and the body will rebuild that. Look at that toe that we rebuilt just on fruit and herbs. Pretty necrotic. All the way down, the bone was gone, and all that. So to bring in life into death, you can't have cooked foods. You can't use pharmaceuticals. You got to bring life begets life. So you got to bring life in, especially the kidneys. So the fruit level is the top healing level of all levels for the Homo sapien, no question about it. So that's when I would be on a grape diet. I'd live on a fruit diet if you can get into that level. I would definitely use herbs for the kidneys. I would be real careful with the lymphatic system for a little while. Let the kidneys rebuild itself. You might see some unusual nasty stuff in the urine. Once you get hydrated pretty good and you see some filtration, then you could do maybe a water fast or maybe a real short dry fast. But I'd be real careful. Your whole gig is the same thing always. Get your kidneys filtering. Because if you can't get the kidneys filtering, they themselves will necroticize. Everything will. That's what acids do to you. They break down. Because we're in an atom rearrangement universe. You don't take care of yourself. Oh, we can use your atoms. Go ahead and die. I can use those atoms over here. People keep having babies, all that thing. So in this whole thing, you see rainforests being torn down and all this, but we need atoms. So it's all tied in this unconsciousness. I just don't even know how the divine does this. When you really look at it, it's like, oh, whoa. And the mind can never wrap itself around it. It is totally a conditioned instrument. You've got to become conscious and live in the world of consciousness, and then your answers are there. He's 200 pounds, by the way. So again, we have an adrenal issue. Probably the kidneys are in broken down, and some of it is necroticide. You're going to see the adrenals down with it. There's a lot of mineral utilization, your sugar metabolism. You're into your gonadals, your testosterone, estrogen, progesterones, and all of those, aldosterones. You're into neurotransmitters. That's your autonomic nervous system. So you're in a lot of things here. And you start to see trouble with all these. You see what they would call, or we would call years ago, deficiencies. Zinc deficiency or whatever. But it's all tied to your adrenals there. But again, that's why you see the detox and the way I put that kit together. And I've learned through the years how to put kits together that try to make your detox easy. Because if you're not doing detox right, it can get rough. You've got to realize that you can't just move acids around in the body. You've got to have the doorways opened. And that is key. You have to see this, right? Or you get this. That's simple. And it's not that God didn't love this lady or anything else. This is all action-reaction. This is all you and your journey. Unfortunately, we live in a very unconscious universe, or you wouldn't be here. I mean, the more aware you become, it's rough being in these lower levels, let me tell you. Having a human body and the bodies, when you know your other bodies and been traveling in them, it's rough to come back to this physical shell, let me tell you. Oh, it is slow. It's just everything about this universe compared to thought and compared to even the astral bodies, slow. I have stage 4 kidney disease. Doctors say that the part of the kidneys that are damaged no longer get proper blood flow and the tissue dies and is permanent. What they do not understand, it isn't the blood that's the problem. It's the lymphatic system that's the problem. And the kidneys are the eliminative organs of the lymphatic system. So they have lymph nodes to them too. Same with the bladder. Even your eliminative organs are made of tissues. So again, going after the cell, 75 trillion cells, right? You have to understand you have two components, feeding and eliminating. Consumption and elimination. That is a fact in factories, everything you build has consumption or building and then elimination of the byproducts. You just don't burn everything up. That's just not what happens. That's why we yell at pollution and everything else. That are damaged. By the way, I would use, though, in these cases, circulation. I would get my blood aggressively circulating more all through my body. And this is when you could up these dosages on circulation. I'd also use some brain and nerve on that one. But I would, after the kidney formulas, but be easy, and work down that way. Get on a fruit diet, no question about it, because nothing else will be responsive to that. And your kidneys will rebuild themselves, especially once you get filtering. Everybody's starting to clap. Yay! Now we can get strong again. My question is, if I do a detox, is it possible to regenerate the parts of the kidney? Absolutely is. Matter of fact, your body will probably eliminate that tissue and regrow new. That's what the body does. It regrows new tissue. In other words, can I rejuvenate both kidneys fully where it is like the kidney disease never happened? Absolutely can. Absolutely can. But you've got to understand that you have a lymphatic system there that depends on those kidneys. And that's where the catch-22 comes in here. You're lymphatically compromised, no question. Most of us are at one level or another. But when it's the kidneys themselves, You know, I just had a lady in here that had a large tumor on one of her kidneys. Same problem, same issue. And after a while, you know, the kidney itself will necroticize. But the body, just like that toe you see in there, the body will eliminate this tissue, but you got to have a port of elimination. And I've been harping on this how many years? You've got to get the kidneys filtering. And to a renal man, or even to any medical doctor, that's a sign of infection. You're eliminating your systemic waste, which is going to have bacteria in it. Why would you have bacteria in your urine? Oh, because it all comes through the lymph node system, and on through, and bacterium are lovers of acids. So you're going to see that. And I had this kidney stone. I said, well, you got bacteria all around the kidneys. Yeah, I said, it's helping me break it down. Huh? I mean, that's what your lymph node bacterium does. It brings those 3 pH systemic acids up to 6. I've said this many times. You don't want a P3. Anybody's had a UTI or anything like that? You know what I'm talking about. Matter of fact, it's not just kidneys. You can regenerate anything. The kidneys are a lot easier to regenerate than the neurological system of the human body. That's your top dog. And now that you guys know that that neurological tissue requires fructose, and that man has been cursing fructose, it's that same ideology, that same ridiculousness. And sometimes I wonder who's sitting there. They know the difference between fructose and high fructose corn syrup, and they just labeled fructose as bad all the way through. Even, I told you, even the primate trainer up at Disney World, I've talked to them, Busch Gardens over here in Tampa, they think fruits are too sweet for primates. Huh? You want to dumb them down with vegetables? Should I do grapes only? I would. Grapes only, or, you know, within the fruit family. Probably stay away right now from lemons, limes. Make sure you use navel oranges that are sweet as all get out. Anything that's too sour or tart is going to be a little more acidic. I'd be gentle first, and that's the beauty of grapes. They alkalize real quick, and the darker the grape, the more alkalization that you see. So they they have that balance. They have that balance of astringents and yet the food for the cells. So yeah, I appreciate you, John. Love you, man. Go after this. You know, if you need help, you know, we've got a good health center here, or you know, get with GrapeGate, get with our students. I mean, there's always help out there. I think from our clan. Wow, I can't not pronounce this name, so I apologize. But this individual's from Bulgaria. The first name is spelled T-S-V-E-T-A-N. Hi, Dr. Morse. Hope you're doing fantastic. Yeah! I know I am. Music to the spheres. I know I am. My name is Tesvinton. I can't pronounce that. A 20-year-old male from Bulgaria. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love the Bulgarian people. I have been following you for 2 to 3 years now. Oh, really? And connect with what you were saying. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. I started wondering about the proper human diet from the age of 13 and 14. So that tells me you're quite a spiritual dude. You know, when you start thinking about these sort of things and you're young, yep, you're one of the more aware people. And that's what this planet needs, is more aware beings to help this severe unconsciousness. Whew. As we all should know, every animal on this planet has its own evolutionary diet. The humans are no exception. Absolutely, you're right on, my friend. Back then, I had insecurities because I was on the skinny side, and since then, see? So, and that's that's a good issue you bring up, because a lot of people, I'm going on fruit and I'm already skinny as all get out. And if I get any skinnier, and that's what you see a lot of times, you can get really like, oh my God, look what he's on that fruit diet. Look at him, he's emaciated. Again, you already have that problem, and you de-skin a person that's skinny like that, and it's not always pleasant what you see. So there's this process you got to go through. Whether you're obese or skinny, it don't matter where you fit on that scale. There's a process you have to go through to get well. So whatever you see, you just got to hang in there. When you see excessive skinniness, what do you see? Malabsorption. And where does malabsorption take you? Right to your adrenals and kidneys and to your lymphatic system. I remember talking to a medical doctor one time. She's a really nice lady, and I was talking to her about malabsorption. She said, "Oh, I'm interested in malabsorption. What's malabsorption?" And I thought, good medical doctor, right? There's some good medical doctors out there, I'm telling you. Matter of fact, I don't know if we have that one up, but, Dr. Toomey, we had a good video together. All right, I have tried to gain weight, experiencing with various diets, including vegan, vegetarian, carnivore. To be honest, I have mixed feelings about the carnivore diet in humans. No kidding. I get it. Meat is a big stimulant. And so you see this, I say this a lot because you see it on Naked and Afraid. They got a new season coming up and you see this guy moving across this water. And there's this baby alligator like swimming by and he's sneaking up to grab it to eat it. But that's where you really see the protein issue, because you see bodybuilders or people that are very fit go on this program and don't last because they need protein. They need protein. And then I told you on this one commercial, they said protein equals energy. No, it doesn't. Your carbohydrates are used for energy. So it's just the wrong thinking and misunderstanding in that. But in that process, you get stinky, you get acidic, and in time, you start to lose the very things you thought you were building up on proteins. Look at some of these bodybuilders when they get older. Bump! The muscles drop. I mean, RA is extremely common. Rheumatoid arthritis. I mean, all these things are common amongst those bodybuilders that didn't learn you can't use protein to build muscle. You got to get into your, like Muscle by Nature that I made, you got to get into your more amino-rich, even alfalfa. Look at what alfalfa does for a horse. Bulks them up pretty good. About 2 years ago, I came to the conclusion that fruit is the food for us humans. We can even see this absolutely see it in the Bible as well. Absolutely. I used to have that all up top of my door. Your fruit should be for your fruit. Where Adam and Eve were only allowed to eat fruits and their seeds. It's there in religious scriptures all around the world. It is there if you have eyes to see. A lot of incredible wisdom is found in all the religious scriptures of the world, not just the Bible, Bhagavad Gita. There's just so many great scriptures around the world, Upanishads. So you got all these great scriptures, and within them, because you got to realize they're physically written, but in them is wisdom of the ages. You just have to have eyes to see. And you can read one book, even the Bible, and read it again and get a whole nother level. Twitchell's books are loaded with that. You can read, let's say, Key to Secret Worlds or Tiger's Fang. Once, you read it again, you saw things you didn't see the first time. Read it the third time, you see things you didn't see that time because you're progressing. You're growing. And as your awareness expands, you see things you didn't see before because you were locked in thought. And that's how creation works. It locks you into thought and feelings, and pretty soon that's your life. Thoughts and feelings. You're constantly thinking, desiring, the gamut of emotions, that sort of thing, and not realizing these are just bodies you're using to experience these levels of creation. Yeah, and there are seeds. By the way, I'm still not sure how I feel about the Bible and the following of Jesus Christ. You've got to look through the priestcraft sometimes and that. I thought when the book of Enoch and the Enoch scriptures were discovered, I think in the Dead Sea Scrolls, that would kind of blow Christianity up a little bit because Jesus Christ is the only Son of God, right? But then here was Enoch before Jesus, teaching the same thing, you know. And so that, if you look and you read, I've tried to study all the religious scriptures of the world, at least to some extent, even Zoroastrianism. I've looked at all these things to a certain extent. It's been 60 years ago, maybe. But you have to look through some of these things and some of these analogies and things like that and look at what's being really said about it. And when you develop yourself spiritually, you see things that others can't see, obviously. And then the teachings are interesting because in the Bible I've always said you got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? Well, those guys are the back of the class. You start reading all the other script. Look at all the other what they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. All the other ones, the scriptures according to Paul, Mary, even. You start seeing all these other. I don't know what you call them, but like scripture type things. You start to see that Jesus is more toward the Essene thinking. And the Essenes back then were raw food communities. And Jesus is a part of that raw food community. These things are not brought out much. You had fasting 40 days and 40 nights. And I told you in Catholicism, there's these monks you never hear about that go out into the desert and fast and meditate for 40 days and 40 nights to have out-of-body experiences and to travel. Jesus was a traveler, guys, whether people like it or not. But a lot of the Christian saints were. A lot of them were. They would see some of these saints in Christianity. One guy was St. Paul, or one of them was in prison at one time, but they'd always see him out walking around the streets. It's cool stuff. There's cool stuff in all the spiritual scriptures. But get your ability to see what's there in truth, and it'll uplift you. Because it doesn't matter. Just remember, look at all religious scriptures as a process of growth. But the reality isn't the book. The reality isn't the scriptures. The reality isn't Jesus or Buddha, Enoch. The reality is you. You're the living truth. And Jesus even said, you're the one. You're the living truth. Well, what does that mean? I don't have too many ministers or priests or whatever talk to you about that. But should each one of you represent the divine? Each one of you are the Son of God, and sort of speaking. That's not blasphemy or anything else. You have to look at the understanding of how creation's put together, or you're living in a little shell with opinions and hates and all kinds of things. It's just limiting your expression. You think God individualized itself and created and just to live in a little corner of beliefs and everything and knock your... No. Your abilities are way beyond what you could even imagine because your consciousness experiencing itself through duality. You can only learn so much through duality because it's limited. It's like a closed house. Consciousness has no beginning or no ending. And you'll find these things. It's kind of like the Bible has the two sides of that. You know, it has consciousness. God is the all, the infinite, the omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, right? That means there's nothing outside of God. Nothing. It means it's everything. Literally everything. All powerful, all knowing, all present. So it's literally everything. So they're telling you right there, but then they talk about devil and God, and then they bring that down into duality, where you have the negative forces and the positive forces. That's just the way it is, you know. Can I gain weight on a fully fruit diet? Nah, I don't think so. Not yet. You really got to get your lymphatic system moving through your gut and start really absorbing properly. And then see where you go with that. I've had people on all fruit diet get skinny, and then pretty soon they start gaining weight. That's when you really know you're kind of turning the corner, is when you're working on yourself like that and you're skinny, and then pretty soon you're starting to gain weight on the same foods that took it off, you thought. Whoa. Because when you move your body into a hydrated state, what do we call that? detoxification. Your body's going to start detoxifying itself. And you can't stop. That's what it is. If you want to stop it, you have to go back to acid-forming foods. Then it will stop, of course. Isn't that interesting? It's all right there, though. All of this is all right there for you to look at. And I don't count calories at all. That's to me, that's a myth. That deals with energy fighting obstructions. And once you remove the obstructions to the flow of energy, and how many energy flows do you have in the body besides you? Blood, nerve, and lymph. So when you remove the obstructions to the lymphatic system, the obstruction to any blood flow, the obstruction to any nerve flow, there's no getting tired. There's no fatigue. There's no, you have boundless energy. You might not be a big person. It's like Ian, he got down into that, and then he added vegetables to build himself back up a little bit. Okay, I get that. But you're still within the good range of eating alkaline-forming foods. But picking up proteins and stuff like that, nuts, stuff like that, not a good idea. So you'll probably always remain somewhat on the skinnier side, but the vitality issue. Then you can go on and on and on and on and say, well, wait, I need calories. Nope, on and on and on. I don't get tired. What do I need to eat for? I don't. And is it a good idea? Because sometimes well, here's the winter time. He does bring that up. And it's difficult, no question. It's cold. That's why I wear my flannels. It's cold. And I'm more of a frugivore, and I don't like cold. I just kind of get done when I'm cold like that. It's like, I don't want to be cold. I like the tropics. Because sometimes in the winter I feel like I am too cold. That's true, and it's right on with that. So here he adds, I started adding 5 to 6 eggs. Holy crap, that's a lot of eggs. They're constipating as hell. A day, and from time to time meat. Well, I would probably go into more cooked and steamed vegetables. If you had to, do the potatoes, starch. But you know what? It is what it is. As opposed to going into the meats and the eggs. Is dried fruit a good option? Absolutely is. I'm a medjool date lover. Baharis are good. Figs. Whether they're Kamaris or Black Misha, doesn't matter. I love figs, dates, raisins. I love all that. Dried pineapple I have at the house. Dried papaya I have at the house. Because can't get it raw sometimes. And so then I do the dried stuff. I am a big fan of eggs. Yeah, gather that. 5 to 6. But, you know, years ago in depleted cases, I used to recommend raw eggs because as a farm boy, my mom made us eggnog. Of course, it's raw eggs in milk, but raw eggs, you have the power of that. But then you have so many other things to think about. Is it bad to eat them? I really don't know how to answer that. Raw, but cooked? I don't know. I don't eat eggs. I learned a long time ago. I was reading and I was wondering why I was a little constipated, and I'm going. And I think it was, who's that old herbalist guy? Anyway, in the back of his book, he had eggs were constipating, and I went, that's it. Will my body struggle with them if this is the only animal food? I would say that if I had to choose, that's probably a better animal food, to be honest with you. And the non-fertilized. I am a big, let's see here. I consume in a day and the rest is fruit. Okay. And for the ending, what is your option? Well, if you did, your fruit in the morning and you did an egg on top of a salad, but you could. They do have salad bars where you can put eggs on it. That would work. I mean, nothing's perfect, and I'll have to say, and I don't preach perfect. It's difficult, If you're serious, fighting something serious, and they want to do chemo on you and stuff like that, I'd get very serious, right? There's a time to be very serious. And there's a time where you can balance out. And that doesn't hurt you. And then when that time's ready, go in deeper then, right? And then, take a break from that and get into the all fruit again. And then sometime when you're ready, take a break from that. Sometimes it rats you out too much. Well, take a break then, But a proper break would be more important. Observing proper food combinations, number one. Not getting into the proteins, number two, Except, like I say, you could do an egg, I guess, on the salad. And for the ending, what is your opinion on the Bible and the following of Jesus Christ and his words? It's his words. And like I said, in the Bible, as in all religious scriptures, you will find both sides of life described, the all and the created. So just remember that. You have creation and you have the creator. The problem is they try to separate the creator and you. And that's where, the control comes in. And the priests are the only ones that represent the creator. No. Each and every one of you represent the creator because that's who you are. When you get away from the form, the individual forms, where do you go then? If you start losing forms, who are you then, right? And if you've ever experienced, some of you experience these higher cosmic consciousness levels, I certainly have, that is the top of the middle worlds is cosmic consciousness. Holmes wrote a lot about what they call the universal mind, where the mind is actually created, the power of that. There you will see everything as individuals. Every being that you experience, a lot of it's made up for you, but you will understand that everything is one. And that where you have to be careful for those spiritual nuts, be careful. It's a beautiful place to be. It's so nirvanic. I was extreme nirvanic. But I saw everything as me, as the same. We were all the same, but still separate. That's that little line between the id, the ego, and the soul, what they call the soul plane, or the beginning of pure consciousness. The beginning of pure consciousness, there is no form, of course, and you don't see everything as one because you are the one. Everyone becomes the one again. Just coming home. So, all religious scriptures, you use them for your sukkah. There might be certain scriptures or certain things within the Bhagavad Gita or whatever that just turns you on, that just really makes you feel good or gives you a heightened sense of awareness and happiness. Yeah, enjoy those. That's what these books are for. But I've seen people cling on them, and they did the same thing with Twitchell's books. I had one guy just said, "This is the word of God." I said, "Give me a break." Of course it is, but so is everything else. Because everything comes from the one, Just different things are written higher or exposed to you different levels, and that's all it is. It doesn't mean one's bad or good over another. It's just they're all levels in creation. Endless frequencies, endless levels. Look at the frequencies. Look at an example, TV. You got different channels, right? All kinds of activity on each channel. And it's the same thing we just talked about Omniconic from Venus and she was talking about why you can't see Venusians. And it's that energetic differences. What we see physically of Venus is not true astrally of Venus. So it's just that there's all kinds of frequencies and life on all these frequencies. It's like overwhelming when you start to look at all. It's like, holy moly. But that's what makes you happier. That's what gives you the strength and the succor of yourself. And then be nice. Remember humility. There's no reason to be mean to anything or anyone. That's bad karma. When you start recognizing that we're all come from the same source, then that love comes in and that humility comes in. And how can I help you? I've got my succor. I found the truth. Now, how can I help you find the truth? If at all, right? So good questions. I really like that. Good questions. And all spiritual giants have said a lot of great, great, great things. You have to have sometimes the ears to hear And like I've said, it's all leveled. Some people get out of some of these teachings things that are incredible, and others just, just depends where you're at in your level of consciousness. But remember this, your belief systems, what you believe in, binds you to that belief system. So if you want to know what truth is, you can't believe in anything because your belief will limit you from seeing the truth. Because you've narrowed, I believe in this. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. I believe in that. Well, you've just limited your ability to see beyond that and what truth might really be for yourself. So be careful about your desires and your belief systems because they will bind you to that desire or that belief system. And you don't want to be bound to anything. If you're one of the more spiritual people, you don't want to be bound by these. You have this singing of freedom in your heart. And that's where America was discovered. America wasn't a communist country. America wasn't, matter of fact, if you look at this, the people ran from the queen and the kings because they were highly religious. They ran from religion to create a new world, right? And then that follows them over. But in reality, America was founded on individuality and freedom. Those are the high keystones of God, individuality and freedom. Socialism is of the negative forces. Everybody should think as one, dress as one, look as one. And by the way, we need to get rid of most of you anyway, or too many of you. All this stuff is of the negative forces. And allopathy decided to go down that route. So it's unfortunate. And when I see a good medical doctor that wants to pull in the positive side, you got a good individual there. Okay. Wishing you all good and bad. Dude, I really like you, man. Because life is a mixture of everything, and that's what makes it unique and fun. Keep going strong. I like this dude, man. Pretty cool. Important stuff to talk about, though. And don't be mad at me, but you just have to understand I'm here to break up thought forms and to break up things and bring you all as high as I can get you. That's why if you look at your inner worlds, you might find me there with you, helping. I got time, I think. Do I have time for one more? I might not. So what I think I'll do is I wait. I've got a 2:30 podcast today. So I got to get myself to lunch and then back again. But I'll get caught up a lot more, I promise. I'm now getting everything kind of, the books are coming together. Now Pat's just got a ton of work. Oh, I sent her a bunch of charts that I've made and then asked her to take a look at it and see if there's anything that we could add that I'm unaware of or something, So I'm real proud of what you're going to get on these books. I love you guys. Be strong. Be awake. And eat raw. Yeah, you have to have some warm soups or whatever in the winter times. You got to do what you got to do, right? But don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. Love you guys.